The rain fell in heavy sheets, turning the city into a blur of gray and neon. David barely noticed. He walked with his head down, his expensive coat soaked, his mind lost in the same thoughts that had haunted him for 10 years. Amelia. Her name was a whisper in his heart, a ghost he couldn't escape. Even now, standing in front of her favorite cafe, the one they used to visit every Sunday, he could almost hear her laugh, but the cafe was closed, just like his happiness. A shivering figure caught his eye. A young woman sat huddled under the cafe's awning, her clothes ragged, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth. A beggar. David had seen hundreds like her, but something about her stopped him. Maybe it was the way she held herself, proud despite her circumstances. Or maybe it was her eyes, Amelia's eyes. He blinked, shaking off the ridiculous thought. Grief was playing tricks on him again. Without thinking, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. He didn't need it. Money had never been a problem for him, not since his tech company took off. But what good was money when the one person he wanted to share it with was gone? Here, he said, holding out the bill. The woman looked up, startled. Her gaze flickered between his face and the money, suspicion and hope warring in her expression. Why? She asked, her voice rough but clear. David didn't have an answer. He just shrugged. Bad night for everyone, I guess. She hesitated, then took the money, clutching it tightly. Thank you. He nodded and turned to leave, but her next words froze him in place. You're David, aren't you? His breath hitched. How did she know his name? Before he could respond, she added softly, You look just like she described. David's heart pounded. Who? The woman's lips trembled. Amelia. The world tilted. David's hands trembled. The rain, the cold, the noise of the city. Everything faded into a dull hum. All he could hear was the ragged breathing of the woman in front of him. All he could see were those hauntingly familiar eyes. Amelia. She had said her name. How do you know that name? His voice was low, almost dangerous. He hadn't spoken Amelia's name aloud in years, not without feeling like his chest was being ripped open. The woman hesitated, as if realizing she had crossed a line. She clutched the $100 bill tighter, her knuckles whitening. I shouldn't have said anything. She started to stand, ready to bolt. David moved without thinking, blocking her path. Number, you don't get to say her name and then walk away. His voice cracked. Who are you? For a long moment, she just stared at him, conflict flashing in her gaze. Then with a shaky breath, she whispered, Sophia. The name meant nothing to him. But the way she said it, like it was a secret, like it was a key to something buried, sent a chill down his spine. Sophia, he repeated. What do you know about Amelia? Sophia swallowed hard. She was my mother. The words hit him like a punch. David staggered back, his mind racing. Number, no. That's impossible. Amelia had never mentioned a child. They had tried for years, but... You're lying, he snapped. But even as he said it, he studied her face. The shape of her nose, the curve of her lips, the way her eyebrows arched, just like... Oh, God. Sophia saw the realization dawn in his eyes. She looked away ashamed. I didn't know how to tell you. I needed to see you, to know if it was true. David's legs threatened to give out. He leaned against the cafe's brick wall, the cold seeping through his coat. If what was true? Sophia's voice was barely audible over the rain. That you're my father. David couldn't breathe. The words, you're my father, echoed in his skull, louder than the pounding rain. His vision blurred, not from the water dripping down his face, but from the storm of emotions tearing through him. Amelia had a child? His child? It wasn't possible. They had tried for years, the doctors had said. But Sophia stood there trembling, her eyes locked onto his with a mix of fear and desperate hope. She looked so much like her. David's voice was raw. Prove it. Sophia flinched but nodded. Slowly, she reached into the pocket of her tattered jacket and pulled out a small, water-stained photograph. Her hands shook as she held it out. David took it, his fingers brushing against hers. Cold, rough. So unlike the soft hands Amelia used to have. The photo was old, faded, but unmistakable. Amelia younger, smiling, holding a baby wrapped in a blue blanket. His wife, their child. David's knees buckled. He barely caught himself against the wall, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Why didn't she tell me? The words were a broken whisper. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself, her voice barely audible. She was going to. She told me. She was waiting for the right time. The right time. The words burned. Because Amelia had died suddenly. A car accident. No warning. No goodbyes. No chance to tell him. David's grip on the photo tightened. Where have you been all these years? Sophia looked away, her jaw clenched. Foster homes. Then the streets. The words were a knife to his chest. His daughter, his flesh and blood, had been alone all this time. While he drowned in grief, she had been fighting to survive. David reached out before he could stop himself, gripping her shoulder. You're coming with me. Sophia stiffened. What? Now? His voice left no room for argument. You're not sleeping on the streets another night. For the first time, fear flashed in her eyes. I don't even know you. David's grip softened, just slightly. But I should have known you. His voice cracked. Let me fix that. Sophia hesitated, then gave the smallest nod. David didn't let go of her as he hailed a cab. He couldn't, because if he did, she might disappear, just like Amelia had. The taxi ride was silent. Sophia sat as far from David as possible, her body tense, her eyes darting between him and the passing city lights. David didn't push her to speak. He was too busy fighting the storm inside his own mind. How could Amelia keep this from me? Why? The car pulled up to his mansion, a cold, sprawling monument to the life he'd built without her, without them. Sophia's breath hitched as she stared at the house. You live here? David didn't answer. He just led her inside, flipping on the lights. The grand foyer echoed with their footsteps. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly small in the vast space. It's empty. Because it was. No photos on the walls, no laughter in the halls, just expensive furniture and silence. David avoided her gaze. I don't spend much time here. She didn't ask where he did spend his time. Maybe she already knew. He cleared his throat. You can stay in the guest room. I'll have clothes and food brought for you. Sophia didn't move. Why are you doing this? David finally looked at her. Really looked. At the dirt smudged on her cheeks. At the way her ribs pressed against her thin shirt. At the defiance in her eyes, so much like Amelia's. Because I should have been there, he said quietly. Sophia's lips pressed into a thin line. You didn't know. That's not an excuse. For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Not anger, not fear. Something softer. Then it was gone. She turned away. Where's the shower? David pointed down the hall. She walked off without another word. Alone again, David sank onto the stairs, his head in his hands. He had spent 10 years mourning the love he lost. Now he had to face the love he'd never known. The house was too quiet. David sat in his study, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. He kept replaying Sophia's words in his head. She was my mother. You're my father. He should have been happy. He had a daughter, but all he felt was a deep, gnawing guilt. A soft knock at the door made him jump. Sophia stood there, clean now, her damp hair curling at her shoulders. The borrowed clothes, a simple t-shirt and sweatpants, hung loose on her frame. She looked younger, more vulnerable. I found something, she said quietly. David frowned. What? Sophia didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked down the hall, expecting him to follow. He did. She led him to the guest room, where a small dusty box sat on the bed. David's breath caught. He recognized it. Amelia's old keepsake box. It was under the bed, Sophia said. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I dropped my phone, and when I reached for it, David didn't hear the rest. His hands trembled as he lifted the lid. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to him, all unopened. His vision blurred. This isn't possible. Sophia picked one up, her fingers gentle. She wrote them, for you. David took it, the paper fragile under his touch. The date on the envelope was 2 weeks before Amelia's accident. He tore it open. The first line shattered him. My love, there's something I need to tell you. David's hands shook as he unfolded the letter. The paper was fragile, yellowed with time, but Amelia's handwriting was unmistakable. Elegant loops, the slight slant to the right, the way she dotted her eyes with little hearts when she was being playful. His throat tightened. My love, there's something I need to tell you, and I've been afraid to say it out loud. But you deserve the truth. Before we met, before us, I had a baby. David's knees gave out. He collapsed onto the bed, the letter crumpling in his grip. Sophia hovered nearby, her arms wrapped around herself, watching him with wide, uncertain eyes. He forced himself to keep reading. Her name was Sophia. I was young and scared, and I gave her up for adoption because I thought it was the only way to give her a better life. But I never stopped thinking about her, never stopped loving her. And now, I've found her. She's 12 years old, David. She's beautiful and smart, and she has your eyes. A sob tore from David's chest. Your eyes. He looked up at Sophia, his daughter, really looked at her. The shape of her face, the way she bit her lip when she was nervous, the quiet strength in her posture. She was his. Amelia's letter continued. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I was terrified. Terrified you'd hate me for keeping this secret. Terrified you wouldn't love her. But I can't hide this anymore. I'm bringing her home next week. Please, David, love her like I do. The letter ended there. David's breath came in ragged gasps. Next week. Amelia had died 3 days before she planned to tell him. All these years, Sophia had been out there, alone, while he drowned in his grief, never knowing. He reached for the other letters, frantic now, tearing them open one by one. Amelia's voice poured out from the pages. David, I met her today. She's so shy, but she loves to read, just like you. She asked about her father. I didn't know what to say. I think she's ready to meet you. Are you ready for her? The last letter was dated the day before Amelia's accident. I'm bringing her home tomorrow. No more secrets. No more fear. Just us. All three of us. Finally. David pressed the paper to his forehead, his entire body shaking. Sophia's voice was small. She never came back for me. David looked up, his vision blurred with tears. She tried. His voice broke. She was coming for you. She loved you. Sophia's face crumpled. Then why did she leave me? David didn't have an answer. Not a good one. Not one that would make the pain go away. So he did the only thing he could. He opened his arms, and for the first time in 10 years, he held his daughter. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, painting the room in pale gold. David hadn't slept. He sat on the edge of the bed, Amelia's letters spread out around him like shattered pieces of a life he could have had. Sophia was still asleep in the guest room. He could hear the soft, even rhythm of her breathing from the hallway. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty, but there was one place he needed to go. The grass was damp beneath his shoes as he walked toward Amelia's grave. The headstone was simple, elegant, just like her. Amelia Carter, beloved wife, forever in my heart. David knelt, running his fingers over the cold marble. I found her, he whispered. I found Sophia. The wind rustled the leaves overhead, as if in reply. He hadn't brought flowers. Instead, he held the last letter, the one Amelia never got to give him. I should have known, he said, his voice rough. All these years, I thought I lost everything when I lost you. But she was out there. Our daughter was out there. His fingers tightened around the paper. Why didn't you tell me sooner? The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Then a voice behind him. Because she was scared. David turned. Sophia stood a few feet away, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked small in the morning light, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She must have followed him. David stood slowly. Scared of what? Sophia swallowed hard. That you wouldn't want me. The words hit him like a punch. He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders. Look at me. She did. I would have burned the world for you, he said, his voice shaking. If I had known, If she had told me, nothing would have kept me away. Sophia's breath hitched. But she's gone, and I'm here, and you don't even know me. David cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears. Then let me. They sat on the grass beside Amelia's grave, the letters between them. Sophia told him everything. How Amelia had tracked her down through the adoption agency. How they'd spent months meeting in secret, getting to know each other. How Amelia had promised her a new life, a family. And then she just never came back, Sophia whispered. I waited. For weeks, then months, then years. The agency said the adoption was canceled. No one would tell me why. David's stomach twisted. Because she died. Sophia nodded, fresh tears spilling over. I found out later, by accident. I was 15. I ran away from my foster home that night. David's chest ached. And you've been on the street since then? She shrugged as if it didn't matter. I survived. But she shouldn't have had to. David reached into his pocket and pulled out the $100 bill he'd given her that first night. It was wrinkled, worn, but she'd kept it. You asked me why I gave you this, he said softly. Now I know. Sophia looked at him, waiting. Because somewhere deep down, he said, I think I recognized you. The promise. David stood, holding out his hand. Sophia took it, letting him pull her to her feet. I can't change the past, he said, but I can damn well change the future. Sophia searched his face. What are you saying? I'm saying, come home. For the first time since he'd met her, Sophia smiled. It was small, hesitant, but real. Okay, she whispered, and as they walked away from the grave together, David knew Amelia was watching, and finally, after 10 long years, she could rest. Epilogue, 1 year later. The house was full of laughter. Photos lined the walls now, Sophia's graduation, their trip to Italy, a framed copy of Amelia's last letter, displayed proudly in the living room. David stood in the doorway, watching as Sophia argued playfully with her boyfriend over movie choices. She was different now, confident, happy, loved. She caught him staring and grinned. What? David shook his head, smiling. Nothing. But it was everything. Amelia had given him a second chance, and this time he wouldn't waste it.
Subscribe and press the bell icon so that you never miss the amazing video.